Hey Cam,
Hey Keith, how are you doing?
doing good Cam. How are you today?
Good, good. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
it's my pleasure. So how's your day so far?
Day is going well. I'm located in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. So
Mm.
we just had a bunch of snow and we're finally starting to get some nicer weather. So
Well,
um, yeah, we're excited for that, right? So
wonderful, Cam, wonderful. So Cam, In My Blood is to be out this year. So can you tell me a bit about the making of this album, the songwriting and production behind this new album?
yeah, absolutely. We last month or 2 months ago now, actually, beginning of March, we released a brand new single called "Run From You," and that's the a second track off the album that's going to be coming out later this year, like you mentioned, "In My Blood." And then actually on May 20th, we have our title track dropping. So on all streaming platforms, "In My Blood" will be available to everybody, and
Yeah.
we've been fortunate enough because it's gotten a lot of airplay so far on different radio stations and the album itself, though, is it's a 10-track album. It's
Mhm.
about 40 minutes in length, and it's a bit of a departure from what we've dealt with in the past in terms of, the last album, Born in the Afterglow, was very kind of light and melodic,
Mhm.
where we were really experimenting with different sounds as artists. But this album, In My Blood, actually has a lot of kind of late 90s techno infused rock that's very up tempo. It has a lot of melodic kind of Iron Maiden almost inspired guitar riffs over top with really technical drums and this kind of poppy vocal that sits on top. So it's interesting because we still meshed a lot of different styles into this album,
Mhm.
but all 10 tracks are very up tempo. They're kind of designed to be very catchy and hooky, and something that people can kind of move to as well, right? So
Mhm.
we wanted to get super experimental with this album, Keith, and just kind of put a lot of our different influences into a melting pot and just see what we were able to create. So um, what we've discovered so far has been really it's super unique. I think a lot of people have a hard time kind of putting their finger on what we sound like,
Mhm.
which is really exciting because a lot of people will say, different artists that,
Yeah.
we remind them of, and it's never the same artist. It's always someone different. So, which I guess that says to us that we have a very kind of original style and sound. And so I'm excited. I'm really excited, like I said, for people to hear the second track this month and to hear the full album later this year. I think we're going to release another single maybe in about another month's time after May the 20th.
Mhm.
And then after that, we'll announce when we're actually going to drop the full length album. So.
Do you have any plans for the exact date of the release?
Not really, no. We're anticipating kind of late summer, early fall, I think is when we're going to release it. And we're going to, like I said, release it on all streaming platforms.
Mhm.
We want to get really creative with the release as well. So we're going to find different innovative ways to kind of promote the album. My drummer and I are going to the studio tonight. So we're kind of trying to update our Instagram with different live posts of us playing through the different singles and just give people a taste of what to expect and what that kind of looks like in terms of maybe a live performance as well,
Yeah.
when the time comes for us to be able to kind of get back into that. So yeah.
Sounds good. And was there any particular concept or theme that was put behind this album?
The theme, like I said, was my singer Samuka and myself. We got together and we discussed kind of what this album would be. And it's funny because Born in the Afterglow contained two songs that were similar to kind of what this new album's going to be. It's Hold You and Fire in Your Eyes. Those two songs off of our last album were very kind of, it had a lot of electronic elements, very dancey, and it just sounded like nothing we've ever heard before.
Mhm.
So those two songs in particular got a lot of really good feedback. So I thought to myself, we kind of wrote a light song in the last album, and I kind of wanted to do the antithesis of that. So go into a completely different direction and create something super, super, like I said, up tempo, hard hitting, kind of in your face that has those earworms that are really catchy and hooky. So it was intentional to have that departure from Born in the Afterglow. We love that album, but we wanted to do something different in terms of this one. So it was a conscious decision to do the electronic,
Mhm.
really high driven, kind of high octane music, and then the choruses are designed, like I said, to be just incredibly infectious. And as we're writing them, I found myself kind of humming along to them too when I wasn't in the studio, not like thinking it's our music, but just having that kind of that catchy melodic hook to it. So I knew we kind of created something special with this one just because of that reason. It still contains our signature sound, like what we're known for, but we just wanted, like I said, to incorporate some different styles that we've never used before. We may have used and just kind of brushed over, but we've never dedicated a full album to this kind of like
Gotcha.
up-tempo dancing music. They've always contained at least like one ballad that was just a consistent ballad throughout. We didn't do that on this album. We had them all. They have moments where it ebbs and flows, where they start to go into kind of more of a piano ballad, and then we bring it back into like a more intense, dramatic kind of production style, I guess. So
Amazing, amazing. And any plans to come up with a music video?
yeah, we're in the works right now. Like in Thunder Bay, we have a few different people that we're in contact with. Actually, we're supposed to release a video prior to the whole COVID thing, and that didn't work out. It just didn't make sense with the health guidelines in Ontario. So we wanted to be very aware of that too, Keith. Like we wanted to be aware of, not spreading the disease and kind of following the guidelines. So we're fortunate enough to have our own studio in Thunder Bay, Thunder Sound Studio, with our own producer, web designer, Russ Elder and Richard Lawrence. They're like the fifth and sixth member of the band, even though they don't play an instrument. So, but we're fortunate because when we were able to actually get together in the studio when we weren't in lockdown, we all got together and we started to kind of, work on this material, and we were able to release 2 albums in the process of the COVID pandemic. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to release a music video coming up hopefully this year at some point. We were scheduled to release one from the last album, so we might reach out to the individuals we were talking to and the production companies we were talking to maybe work on creating a storyboard for the, like, Run From You, for example, or In My Blood, one of those singles, probably, because we want to push them as much as possible, and we just want to share them with the biggest audiences we can. So just because we're very proud and kind of passionate about what we created. So and I think, like, to your point, I think music videos are a good way to kind of do that, right? So
yeah, sounds good. And how is the touring plan looks for the band as of now?
Touring, well, we did an Ontario tour a couple years ago now. Well, more than that. But what we're going to probably do is, if it makes sense to do so, like, the one thing we found in during the COVID is that we were able to reach kind of a large international audience just through social media, or through, like, having conversations like you and I are having right now, which has been amazing, right? Because, like, I remember, like, I always watch documentaries of, like, the 70s or 80s, and you had to go touring to get that kind of audience, right? And now it's like we're able to reach a larger audience just through having these conversations and being able to share music kind of on a larger scale without actually traveling and touring. Don't get me wrong, when we did go touring, it was a great experience, and something I would definitely love to do with the guys again, but it has to make sense. I think it has to make sense for us to physically go on a large scale tour, and when it does, we'll definitely look at that option. But right now, it's like I said, we're very fortunate to have a record label in America, from the Depths Entertainment, which has been incredibly supportive of what we've been doing, and they've also been able to kind of push our music to a larger audience as well. And us being in Canada and them being in the States, it really helped kind of develop that relationship as well, which has been amazing. So
great. And started as a high school band back in 2007, and been a long road for you guys. So how has it been for you guys so far?
It's been great. It's been excellent, because my drummer and my bass player, we've Brendan Byers and James Cole, they couldn't be here today, but we met in grade 9 and grade 10, and my drummer and I, Brendan, we formed a relationship kind of just through jamming and just drums and guitar, and we started to kind of build our songwriting chops together, and we had a weird chemistry right out of the gate. Like, we could play for hours and not even talk. We could just communicate through music, and we still have that today. And something I probably take for granted until it's actually I bring it up in conversation, or you bring it up in conversation. And then James Cole, we connected with him in grade 10, and we were able to form like a 3-piece. And then Sam Muka, our singer, he came along just when we were 19, when we graduated from high school. And we were big into the live circuit here in Thunder Bay. Like, at that time when we were in high school, we were getting into bars and clubs that we legally couldn't go into. So a lot of the promoters would sneak us in and get us in and stuff like that, which was really, really cool. and we were able to garnish a pretty big following locally in
Mhm.
Thunder Bay, and which was really amazing. And then, like I said, my singer joined, and then shortly thereafter, Russ Elder, our producer, joined, and we moved into, Thunder Sound Studio, which was just like a dream for us because we didn't, it was like we always wanted to record our stuff, and we were so used to playing live, but we actually got the opportunity to do that now. And it was amazing. And then like I said, Richard Lawrence being brought in after that to do the web design and help us with the promotions and everything like that. So I think forming in high school was really cool because we have a really long history. Like we're brothers, like we're a band of brothers basically. And we bond over the music, and the music's the thing that I think kind of keeps us together as time goes on. But we have a history, and we have, all these experiences and all these stories of playing live shows, and that we always reflect on, right? So that's something, once again, that, like, unless I'm actually talking about it, it's easy to kind of get lost in that with everything that's going on right now and trying to kind of push the album and move forward. It's I don't know, it's really, really special. So yeah, we all met in Westgate High School here in Thunder Bay, and that was kind of where the roots started. And it started with, just like I said, Brendan and I wanting to play music, wanting to create our own sound through our influences. We listened to everything from, Judas Priest to like the whole British
Yeah.
invasion thing, right? Very heavily influenced by that. But then we have very diverse tastes where we listen to jazz, blues, to everything from screamo music to techno music to, it's like we're all over the map, right, when it comes to that. So, and I think that's what makes our sound so original, is we're inspired by so many different styles of music that it just comes out how it comes out. It's very organic and natural, right? So
Amazing. Amazing. And would you like to share some of the great moments that you had over the years?
yeah, the great moments. We've been lucky enough to have a few. Like I said, we did the tour of Ontario. We've won a couple last band standings here when we were younger.
Mhm.
And then we got sponsored by a few different companies, and that was a big thing for us at that time. And then, one of the big milestones, like I said, was working with From the Depths Entertainment. That was a big thing for us, right? And the possibilities that provided. And then one of the big, I'll share this with you, Keith. There's two big milestones for me. One of them was hearing my song for the first time, or our song for the first time in Scotland on the radio.
Yeah.
And sitting next to my dad, actually, while we listened to that together in the live feed here. And it was just like, man, that was just so cool. Like goosebumps instantly, right? It was really, really cool. And shout out to RJ Bailey. He was the DJ at the time who really kind of pushed us over there, and we really appreciated that. And then the other time too is when my mom's friend was in an airport in Ireland, and she picked up two magazines, and we were in those magazines. They were reviewing the album, and she sent them back here. So I thought, like, what we're doing now is we're able to share that now. We're able to share our artistic expression. And that for us is the most important thing, because we're, first and foremost, we're artists, we're musicians. And um, having those milestones was big because it allowed us to share our music with a larger audience and express our feeling, because the music's an extension of our personalities. And being able to share that with other people all over the globe is like, it was a dream come true. So having those little milestones was very, very important. But we were also able to, play with a lot of our favorite bands and a lot of the bands that inspired us, and being able to meet them and play these venues with them. And that was a big thing too, right? Like we started off as a live band, so playing with some of these artists that inspired us was very humbling. It was very it took us aback a little bit, right? It was really, really cool. And yeah, so I would say the live shows, like playing with different artists that inspired us, and then also having the ability, like I said, to reach a larger audience through the label and through other means and connections that we make all over the world, like with yourself as well. Like, this is amazing to be able to connect with you today. So
Amazing, amazing, Sam. And what would be some of the upcoming plans apart from the release of the album?
upcoming plans, like we kind of mentioned, I think it's just continuing to have conversations around the album, and connect with different podcasts and radio stations, and just kind of do that, right? Like I love sitting and chatting about the music and future plans. But I think what we're going to continue to do is write and release music. We've never been one of those bands that's really stopped and paused for a long time, like even COVID, where my singer was throwing ideas my way, and through email, and I'm listening to them. So when we could get to the studio, we're working on them right away. And we've never been one of those bands to really kind of rest on our laurels. And we've always been kind of, even as this album is still being worked on, we're formulating all these different ideas and ways that we can continue to expand our sound and what that even looks like in the future. So we'll probably end up releasing this album and instantly start work on the next album and hopefully play some live shows too. That would be nice to get back into that, because we haven't done that for a little while because of, like I said, COVID and the restrictions here in Northwestern Ontario. But it's something that we're looking forward to getting back into, because there's nothing like playing live, like that's a really special feeling, so.
Absolutely. And talking about the release of the album, do you have plans to have physical CDs, vinyls, or something like that, or you're just going to be on a digital thing?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. We the last album we just did a digital release, just because it just made sense to do that. I would like to get back into releasing some hard copies. Vinyls would be amazing, because that's what I grew up on, and listening to kind of like the classics and stuff through vinyls, at one point in time. So I think that that's important. I think that, doing that is important, but it's more for like I find the local followers and audience versus the grander audience. I think it's just easier to reach that larger audience through the digital realm.
Yeah.
Even though it's pros and cons to everything, right? But I think that that's one of the pros, is the ability to reach a larger audience. So the current plan is just to release on all digital platforms, and just ensure that our music's available for anyone who wants to listen everywhere that we can possibly get it in terms of the digital realm. So
sounds great. And any big dreams for the band?
Well, like I said, we've been fortunate enough to actually accomplish a lot of what we wanted to do. I'd like to tour Europe. I think that's the one thing that I'd like to do that, that we haven't done. Like I said, it's been really cool to connect with people in Europe, and I've been to Europe, a few different times, and but not for music. So I think to go there with the guys, it would be really special. Initially my family's from the UK, so I think that would be really cool to just kind of go there and do a tour and play a bunch of shows, ideally with a band that we, or other artists that we respect and look up to. I think that if we went on some sort of tour of that magnitude, it would be really, really cool, and like a kind of a bucket list scenario, right? But we've been fortunate in that respect too, where we've been able to do a lot of the things that we set aside to do, right? And we wanted to do it initially when I picked up the guitar for the first time. I wanted to be in the position we're in now, essentially, right? So
yeah,
to be doing that, it's pretty cool. But a Europe tour would be very, very cool.
Amazing. And since the beginning, there's a lot of evolution happening in your music. Even to the new album, there's a lot of changes that you have brought into your album. And in the future, will you be doing more experimentation to the band? Do you go something different from what you're doing currently now?
I think so. Yeah, we never want to write the same album, Keith. Like we don't want to get into a rut where it's very predictable. And that's one of the things, like if I listen to artists today as a listener, as a consumer, I want to consistently be challenged, right? Like I want to hear something different. I want someone to bring something new to the table. And so as an artist, we adopt that same kind of ideology where we want to bring something new. Like we want to offer something. So I think doing like another In My Blood, right? Like part 2 wouldn't make any sense, right? Like I would want to do something else, and I don't know what that is yet, but I do know that it will be something very, very different. Because if you look at In My Blood and the last album, Born in the Afterglow, they're night and day difference. But the one common thread through the two albums is that signature sound that we've developed, all 4 of us as artists. So but I would like to experiment with just different sounds. I think that's the big thing, right? And being a lead guitar player, it's not even just the guitar, it's finding ways we can add different synth sounds and just different ideas and different sound. Like nothing's off the table. That's the thing I love about us when we get together, is we experiment with different sounds. We're not too critical initially. We just kind of let it happen and see what happens. And I think that's super fun, right? Especially when we being fortunate enough to have Thunder Sound Studio at our disposal, we're able to have the time to experiment with sounds and see what works, see what doesn't work, and and typically something horrible comes out of that and no one ever hears it, or it becomes something that's like, oh wow, like this is different, right? Like I need to digest this a little bit before we actually release it to see if it's something that we fall in love with, right? So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know, actually. That's got me thinking about what the next sound will be, right? But yeah, it'll be interesting, I'm sure, though.
Wonderful. And how has the support been for you guys in Ontario, and how has the reach been on a global scale?
Ontario was good. Locally, it's been good. Like that, like I said, initially we started out as basically a local live act. And that was kind of where we formed our chops. And I think that's good for bands, I think, is to start as a live band, because you really, you face ridicule, like you face that feedback, positive and negative, and you really start to develop a bit of a tough skin as an artist, where people get it and some people don't get it, right? Which is cool. I appreciate all feedback. But in terms of Ontario, it's been great. Like I said, it's been primarily either the people we've reached through doing tours and stuff, and we've done a few different Canadian radio stations now as well, I think centered in Ontario, so which has been exciting. But I think our music's honestly received better outside of Canada. It's having, in the weirdest way, like, it seems like people in the States and people over in Europe get what we're trying to do. And once again, I'm not knocking. I love I love our home and everything like that. And I think it's coming back. Like, I think it's kind of starting to circle back, and people are starting to kind of dig into that here a little bit more. But which is usually the case, right? With different artists, they end up gaining a following elsewhere, and then it comes back home eventually. So I think that's what's happening right now. But like I said, we're honored, because like, it's, for whatever reason, over in Europe, they seem to just show us a lot of love, and that's awesome. And also within America, and but we've never not received love in Canada. It's just I think we focus so much on the global reach that we've kind of neglected our backyard to some degree, right? Because we were kind of confined to that at one point in time, right? Like, we were confined. The only opportunities we had at the time were to play live shows and be sponsored by local vendors and everything else like that. We were confined to that. So when we were able to get that kind of global reach and recognition, it was something that we just drove into as much as we possibly could. So where we're focusing now, I think, back on coming back around and ensuring that we're showing the local love. And so yeah, it's interesting, but it started here, moved around, and I'm finding now it's kind of coming back, which is cool.
Sounds good. Cam, finally, what would be the message that you want to give to your fans around the world?
I would say my message would be kind of listen to the music with an open mind and an open heart, because I think that we're never going to replicate what we did last time, right? And the only reason I say that is because we are hungry as artists to continue to explore. So I would say just for people who are fans right now and are listeners right now, I think they can expect a consistent change and evolution in our sound. But for any new listeners, I think we don't sound like anything else. Like, we have a very unique and original sound. So I think expect that, right? It's hard to kind of come in and say, oh, they sound like this or that. It's never the case. Don't get me wrong though, Keith. Like, I love hearing what people think we sound like, because that, to me, it's usually very flattering, because it's usually someone that we look up to and kind of idolize as our role models in the music realm. But I think expect to hear something very different and original, but at the same time familiar, if that makes any sense. Because I think that we do incorporate a lot of different styles into one specific song, so there's going to be those common threads of this sounds like this or that, but it won't sound like one artist. Like, we'll never sound like AC/DC or anything else. We're going to sound like Ultimatum, and and that's, once again, that's with that comes feedback, good and bad, right? People who get what we're trying to do and they just fall in love with it, or people who just don't, which is fine either way, right? But yeah, I mean, the message to the fans too would be that we're just very grateful that people are taking the time out to review the music and to listen to the music and just give it a try. Like that's always just so humbling, right? To share music and to get feedback from someone on the other side of the world that digs what we do. It's like it's nothing better, like that is just so amazing. And it's a community too, right? When other artists reach out or other music fans reach out, it's like a community. It almost shrinks the world to some degree because we're all in this together, listening and making music. And so when we reach out with other artists or just different people who listen to the music, it's kind of like we really bridge the gap globally, and we're able to really build those connections. And for whatever reason, that seems to mean more to me now in this phase of my life than ever before, is building those kind of connections and just starting that spark with, hey, listen to this song. And now we're already starting to exchange, different experiences and different stories like we're sharing today, right? Different live stories or recording stories. And it's like, oh man, just such a blessing. Like it's if there's one silver lining to this whole COVID thing, it's that we're able to rely more on this form of, communication, right? So going forward, we won't have to travel as much or do as many things. We'll be able to just connect this way, and but we'll have the option to do those other things that we did pre-COVID. So if there's one silver lining, I think, to COVID, it's that we've been able to really kind of maximize technology and be able to build those connections with everyone around the world with no restrictions and share that music. So
amazing, amazing. And Cam, I want to thank you so much for giving me today this opportunity to have this wonderful interview with you. And it's a pleasure to meet you today. And thank you for the amazing music that you've been giving for years and years now. A real pleasure to listen to you guys. And I wish you all the best and hoping for the album to be out soon.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all mine, Keith. Thank you so much for taking the time out, and we'll have to connect again in the near future for sure. This was a pleasure.
It will be. Sure. Awesome. Awesome, Cam. And you have a great day ahead. Take care of yourself.
You too, brother. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.